name is Joshua Hewitt, and welcome to the premiere episode of Wanderlust Travel and Photoblog's Start Exploring Today video series. Each week, I'm going to bring you a brand new travel episode where I focus on travel advice, spotlight a specific travel destination that I recommend, review an exciting travel itinerary, or talk to you about how to be a better travel photographer. This week's episode is the first in a three-part series on my travel packing advice, and will focus on general travel packing principles that every traveler should follow. If you listen closely and follow these tips, they'll save you a lot of stress as you pack your bags, navigate airport security, and try to keep your bags organized and in your possession as you travel. The first general packing principle I'd like to talk to you about is researching your destination before traveling. This is important because if you don't understand your destination, you won't know what to pack for your trip. For instance, if I don't understand what type of weather to expect when I arrive, I'll have a hard time figuring out what type of clothing to bring with me. I'll also run the risk of not understanding the local customs and wearing something offensive when I arrive. Another general packing principle that is good to follow is understanding the airline baggage rules before you start to pack. Without understanding the airline baggage rules, you won't know how much baggage you can and cannot pack, what the charges are for extra baggage or oversized baggages, and whether or not you're allowed a free carry-on item. In this chart, I have outlined the baggage policies for the major airlines in the United States. Each airline around the world has its own baggage policies. These baggage policies will differ from airline to airline, and sometimes they will differ significantly. That's why it is important to understand them before you start to plan your trip. This is especially true with budget airlines and base fare tickets, where you may save some money on the airfare, but you're going to have to pay for all the amenities, including choosing your seats and, of course, how much you're going to pay for checked and carry-on luggage. The third packing principle that I'd like to discuss with you is one that I'm still struggling with and trying to get better at myself, and that is sometimes less is better. As travelers, I think we sometimes have a tendency to try to prepare for every situation and try to have a contingency plan for everything. However, there is such thing as taking that too far. Now, I'm not saying pack one small carry-on bag for a 2-week trip, but sometimes packing more outfits than you need, or in my case, packing every piece of travel photography equipment that I own, can be more of a hassle than it's worth. Something that I learned early on as I started to travel more that I think would benefit every traveler is to start packing early when you're packing for a trip. Back when I started traveling for the first time, my tendency was I would start packing last minute, and sure enough, I'd almost always forget something that I needed when I packed for my trip. So one piece of advice that I can give you is to start packing early. I'll typically start packing for my trips 1 to 2 weeks early. This allows me times to organize my thoughts, gives me plenty of time to remember things that I may have forgotten when I first packed and slip them into my bag. It also allows me to weigh my bags frequently to see if I'm overweight. It allows me to kind of plan out, do I need multiple bags? And then it gives me time to really consider whether or not some of the things that are in my suitcase I actually need on my trip. One of the most important packing principles that I can share with you here today is to always use checklists when you pack. Now, some of you may travel quite a bit and think you don't need a checklist. I know I was in that group for the longest time. But checklists have really saved me on a couple of occasions, and ever since then I routinely use those when I pack for my trips. If you're looking for a good travel checklist to use, I have one on my blog that you can download and print off. Feel free to customize that however you need, but definitely use a checklist for all of your trips. One thing that is very difficult to predict when you travel, no matter how much you prepare, is what type of weather to expect when you arrive. The forecast might call for blistering hot weather, but when you arrive, you might see cold and rainy weather for several days. And I don't know about you, but that's something that has definitely burned me in the past. That is why I think it's always good to pack layers when you travel. For instance, you might want to pack some t-shirts in case you have hot weather, some long sleeve t-shirts for those cooler nights or cooler days. And what I'll do is I'll either pack a fleece, a sweatshirt, or even a light jacket in my bag in case it gets really cold out on one or 2 days. So even if I'm going to a warm weather destination, I'll pack layers. That gives me some flexibility, and it really can save you in case you run into some unexpected weather when you're traveling. One thing that I think people often tend to overlook when they start to pack for a trip is their personal item. And the next principle that I'd like to share with you on how to pack is to use your personal item wisely. Most airlines will allow you to bring a personal item on a plane free of charge. And this is a good way to get around strict baggage policies, is to use your personal item in creative ways. For instance, when I travel, I always put a change of clothes and some other items in my personal item. That way, should my baggage get lost, I do have a change of clothes and I'm kind of covered. I'm not left scrambling. It also reduces the weight of my luggage because I have some of the items in my personal items. So if you use your personal item wisely, you can kind of get around some of the strict baggage policies and you can leave yourself better prepared. So that's definitely something that you should consider when you start to pack. Another important travel principle that you should probably consider while you start to pack is to use travel accessories to your advantage. With the right travel accessories, you can make travel so much easier for yourself. They've come out with so many creative travel accessories in recent years, and I'm always surprised year after year to kind of review the new accessories that are out there and see what kind of creative and neat things that people are coming up with. And so I have a couple of travel accessories that I like here. Obviously this is far from all of the accessories that I use personally. If you'd like to know a little bit more about some of the travel accessories that I recommend, I do have a blog article out there on my picks for the top travel accessories for 2021. I would definitely recommend you review that. But a baggage scale is always important. It allows you to kind of understand what your bag weight is. I'll use this to kind of weigh my bag before I travel. I'll also pack it in my carry-on, and I'll take this because typically your baggage is going to weigh a little bit more when it's dirty coming back, so I want to make sure that I'm underweight. I really like these hanging toiletry bags. It allows you to keep organized. You can hang this up in a bathroom at the hotel or your hostel, kind of keep yourself organized and not have to take stuff out, maybe not lose stuff, leave it behind in a hotel. A travel sewing kit is always important. You could lose buttons or something like that when you're traveling. It might sound trivial, but you know, it's something that's burned me in the past, and so I think that's always a smart thing. I like to keep my devices. I have a lot of devices. If you follow me on my blog, you know I'm into travel photography. I travel with quite a bit of gear. I like to have a remote or travel charger with me. So this will charge up to 2 devices at one time, and it'll charge, for instance, an iPhone, I think 4 times over. So even if I don't have access to power outlets while I'm traveling, I can still keep my devices charged. And then considering the year that we had last year and kind of the unique travel situation this year, having hand sanitizer and portable wipes and stuff like that help keep you and your family safe as you travel. So I think having the proper travel accessories can relieve stress, keep you safe. Very important part of packing. Another thing that I think people tend to overlook when they start to pack for a trip is travel shopping. People tend to forget that what you bring with you on your trip isn't necessarily everything that you're going to bring back. So having some extra space in your bag and leaving some weight allowance in the bag for those travel souvenirs that you're going to pick up along the way is always a good idea. The last travel principle that I'd like to share with you today may be the most important of them all, and that is to make sure that you're always prepared. And this includes when you're packing. In the chaos of packing a bag, sometimes we have a tendency to overlook the small things that may be critical. Some of these things might be pain relievers, important medications that you can't live without, batteries for devices that you might bring with you that you're going to need, eyeglass repair kit. You know, it can really ruin a trip to lose or damage a pair of eyeglasses if you can't see without them, contact lens materials and stuff like that. So making sure you have all the small stuff prepared when you start to pack is something that's easy to overlook but is critically important. So that concludes my premiere episode of the Start Exploring Today video series, and I hope that you picked up some valuable tips along the way. Again, look for a new episode every week. I'm going to be doing everything from travel advice to highlighting some really cool destinations, talking to you about some of my favorite travel itineraries, and of course, because you know me, sharing some of my travel photography tips. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you next week. And until then, safe and happy travels.